welcome to another edition of Unplugged as we tick towards round 16. That feeling of deja vu, I guess, is still resonating around a lot of Saints fans, given where we were 12 months ago and where we are now. There are still differences, though. Try as we might, we just won't move down on the ladder despite a poor run of form where we stay fifth, obviously with an opportunity to stay there again this week if we can do the right thing in the West. We are now reaching the point, though, that if you lose games, you can fall out of the eight. It was never, hasn't been a possibility in the last few weeks based on the mathematics of it. It's starting to become so. So obviously we've got to right the ship. But a frustrating Friday night against a very good Brisbane team, it must be said. But they weren't sensational. They were solid and played okay. We were very disappointing early. And unfortunately, the pattern around Spud's game continues. And you wonder whether that points to a degree of maturity that when our club, for whatever reason, I know they handled the 150th very well, but whenever they're presented with a cause that steps outside of business as usual, so for example, they have business as usual, which is preparing for a game and doing all of the usual stuff, but it appears that in recent years, whenever there's been something else added to the mix and the week looks different and you do other stuff, that we don't necessarily handle it very well early in a game, especially. Maybe that's reading too much into it, but they clearly need to get better in that space, and obviously Ross will be learning a lot about them. It was another game similar to the week before where they fought pretty hard but had limitations. And now we look towards a West Coast Eagles side which could not possibly be going worse, could not possibly be more banged up with injuries, and really, there are no excuses, but it's about a week back now, Nick. I'll start with you. Reflecting on that Brisbane game, apart from the first goal, we never looked like it.
No, it's disappointing. I think we'd be remiss not to mention the fact that Brisbane are a really good footy team. Like they're a legitimate top four team, right? And we're not at that point. I don't think anyone, despite the fact that we've been fifth for about 3 million weeks, I don't think anyone's legitimately making the argument that we're competing for top four in that same way that Brisbane and Melbourne and Collingwood and Port Adelaide are in those spots at the moment. I think it's pretty clear that we're at least a step down on the ladder and in form and the way that we play footy at the moment. So Brisbane are a really good team, and losing to Brisbane is not necessarily a bad thing. I think what was disappointing was the manner in which we did so, and it was kind of like the bad old St Kilda again. We know that we struggled to get our hands on the ball. We were outmatched in the middle. Our forward delivery was awful. We kicked it to Harris Andrews 6 billion times, as we have tended to do over the last decade with key defender intercept mark type players, whether it's Harris Andrews or Jake Lever or Stephen May or James Sicily or whoever it is, Darcy Moore. It seems to be the kind of kryptonite for us in that we can't seem to move the ball past their kind of centre half back or whoever it is in that kind of third man up intercept mark defender, and it's been a real issue for us for quite a while, and it's kind of reared its ugly head again over the last 5 or 6 weeks, and it's something that we've got to get better at. But it was really disappointing watching that game in that we hadn't seemed to learn anything. We've played some pretty poor footy over the last month or 5-6 weeks, and it didn't feel like we'd learnt much out of it. And I don't think we're expecting to win the flag this year, but I think we are expecting that we're going to be competitive, we're going to compete, we're going to play hard, and we're going to learn week after week with a young team, new coaching staff, all these sorts of things that we continue to learn. And that was, I think, for me, the most disappointing thing is that it didn't feel like we'd learnt much from the previous month.
Yeah, H, I think that's a reasonable summary that it was a lot of those mistakes that we've made in the past. I mean, there are clear visual differences. Obviously, we've got the constant reminder of what happened last year, and it does look the same. But yeah, as Nick was saying, it's about putting yourself in that position again and learning. And that was another opportunity on the big stage where we didn't do so. And there will be more chances this year. I mean, Melbourne, Gold Coast away, Geelong on a Saturday, I think at Marvel, and those opportunities will come again. And I guess we've just got to keep getting better and better at it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a game that we couldn't win. That's as simple as that was.
Yeah.
It was a winnable game. Brisbane showed up. And that's one of the things that went against us. That Brisbane actually played some really good football. We ran as hard as we could. We chased them. The defenders held up reasonably well, but they were just able to find that one extra forward who would just sneak in and get the mark behind us in the 50, or just get that. Or mainly it was Harris Andrews, but there was always that one extra defender helping. It would be, we'd put the ball into King, and he'd be one. By the time we go to kick the ball, he's 1-on-1, but all of a sudden he's 3-on-1. They just structured up better than us. We gave them a bit of space at times. It seemed like we allowed them to almost bring the ball forward and then try to pick it off in their forward line. But as we got the ball back and tried to get up the ground, they were hot on us every time, for every contest. Didn't matter where it was on the ground. Their pressure was a lot. Well, for most of the game, higher. Despite in the second half, I saw that our pressure that Fox Footy run was higher than them. So they seem to be on us quicker, on us earlier, on us, or getting there before, and spoiling the ball more than we did. But so I'm not sure whether that sitting back and waiting for the ball a little bit works against these better teams, because it kind of gives them a bit of a rest running up the field, and we turn around and go back the other way, and all of a sudden they've had their quick rest, and they go hard again. They go and run us down, and so it's not 100% sure that's the best plan of attack against those sort of teams. I think we've got to be a little bit tighter, and we'll, as you're saying, learn from that. We know what the top 3-4 teams are going to bring. We know we have to step up if we want to be a part of that group. As you said, we're probably just a bit below them in the next sort of, I guess, bracket. But in going by that, by the time games start Sunday, we actually could be starting in 9th position, which is a bit of a
conceivably
bit of a strange situation where we could finish exactly where we've started the week again. Well, started.
The wind would roll us back
where we've been since 1937. Yeah. But it's if we can keep up with Melbourne, they're probably, as you look at the moment, probably the other one who's chasing that other spot there. Brisbane have launched and taken off tonight again, as we've seen. So it's a bit of a chase on, and we've given them that buffer and we've lost it. So we've got to pick up a few wins and get that little bit of a buffer back to the teams chasing.
And we've got to be brave in the sense that we play Melbourne next week. We're a game behind them. We probably both win this week. So that presents us with a chance to bridge that gap on them next week. Obviously, they're a very good side, and you never know. But, I mean, in terms of perspective on the season, Nick, how many sides do you reckon this year have spent every week in the 8?
2?
3. Collingwood, Melbourne, and us. So
there you go.
I think that's something that needs to. I wasn't
sure if Melbourne had.
Yeah, it's something that obviously needs to be, I think, put in that degree of perspective. Obviously, it doesn't mean anything if we don't stay there, but I still think that, for all of the negativity around us, Richmond's below us on the ladder. Gold Coast are below us, Adelaide are below us, Essendon are below us, Bulldogs are below us, Fremantle are below us, etc. So for all of the negativity, and I understand where that's coming from, by all measurements, we've had better seasons in all of those teams. So the doom and gloom around us should be higher on them by rights. So it's our position that we've set up and we've earned. So we've got to protect that now. So clearly we've got to play better. But
we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, that I think it was that first 5 or 6 weeks of the season that really kind of changed the direction or the expectation of what we thought this year was going to be. And had we gone 3-3, like we said, was kind of our internal to the podcast, our internal target, then this conversation would be very different. Had we gone 2-4, this conversation would be very different. But we're sitting 5-1 all of a sudden, playing some good footy and we're getting players back, and the expectations naturally change. And I think we've tried to, I guess, keep that a little bit neutral. But when you're playing good footy and then you get guys like Membry and Steele and Max King back and these types of guys, that you expect an organic improvement from that that you've already shown. And that hasn't been the case for us. And there's been a number of reasons, and we could sit here talking for days as to why that hasn't happened. But, the reality is that we didn't expect that we would be sitting in 5th come round 16. Like that was not where we thought this season was going to be 15 weeks ago. So trying to keep that in perspective, I guess, and keep coming back to Ross's line that this is a season of exploration. If we want to take it a step further and play finals, then this week, as we've said for the last few weeks, these are the games that we have to win. And there is absolutely no excuse to not beat West Coast this coming week. But we are St Kilda, and that is so St Kilda. So,
yeah, and that's something
that's why it exists.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that a little bit later on, that sort of commentary around it. But I think, as you say, the expectations change. But I think we now need to make the 8. I think the platform has been set from here that it would be a disappointing result not to make it, based on everything that's happened. And the goalpost of expectation move, and rightly or wrongly, we've set that expectation now. We've been in the 8 all year. We've answered some challenges. We've got some more ahead of us, but it would be a disappointing result if we don't get there from here. So I think that has to now be the expectation. It doesn't just happen, but we've got as good a chance as any. We play, I think, the bottom 5 teams on the table. Admittedly, some are going better than they were earlier, such as Gold Coast to GW. So Gold Coast aren't as bad as that would suggest. And we play Richmond again, who are capable, and Carlton can always do something. But
Hawthorn have already beaten us.
Correct.
North got close.
And they're playing with a little bit more spark at the moment. We
win 3 of those, and we're just about there. Let's say we beat West Coast, Hawthorn, North. We're just about there.
If you look at the equation, so 11,
the way it's going 11, at the moment, we just full 12 is probably going to get you in, because that's the reason we're sitting 5th still. The way the ladder's going.
So 12 would probably just in, 11 probably just out, 13 you're a certainty to make it. So they're the equations that you sort of look at. But we'll touch on, I guess, West Coast a little bit later on, and interesting ones around the Shannon Knowles a little bit later on in the broadcast as well. But in terms of votes, because I did it about a week ago, I feel like I've missed one. So I just wanted to make a slight change to mine. So I'll start at the bottom. I'd initially given a vote to Brad Hill. I'm going to turn that into an apology, and an apology for taking him off the vote list. Having seen a bit of the game again, his defensive efforts, Jack Steele squeezes in place to get that vote. I gave a vote to Nass. I thought he played quite well again. I gave a vote to Mason Wood, who had been a little bit down in previous weeks, but that was a bit better from him. 2 votes to Josh Battle. I thought he was our best of the keys. Took a lot of intercept marks. 2 votes to Jimmy Webster. That's about as good a job as you can do on a quality small forward. And Jack Sinclair was our best player again, and may even get a Brownlow vote conceivably from that performance. But they were my 10, and apologies to Brad Hill, who was in and then out. But H, how did you spread your 10?
I probably have a bit more of a narrow field than usual with my votes. I haven't seen the game on tape. I've only seen live at the ground on the night. So I haven't got Steele in. I was very surprised when I saw he had 21 touches, and I saw anyone had a few tackles because of the way we were, I guess, stopping their run out of the ball ups and that sort of thing. And there was a lot of ball resets and that, and I wasn't surprised to see I was 12 tackles and that sort of thing. But I didn't feel that impact at the ground as obviously what probably happened on the actual coverage on TV itself. So he is one that I didn't get in there. So obviously there's an apology if I have missed a pretty good game from him. But yeah, gave one to Brad Hill and one to Josh Battle. To Jimmy Webster. I mean, you could be dead sad and lucky to keep Cameron goalless, and he kicks one with a second to go. That's the cheap goal over the top to pick that one, and that is the unluckiest thing because he did a brilliant job on him, and you could just see down on the ground level how much he was working him, and just getting him to a position that didn't make it easy for him to do what he likes to do normally. And we thought Patton was probably going to be the one going to him, but yeah, Jimmy stepped in, and if we want someone for the game later in the year on him, he's locked that position in already. There's no way he's not getting picked against Brisbane next time. Gave 2 to Crouch as well. Just thought he battled away for the day, and as he has, he's just done that all year, week in, week out, and it's probably one of the most consistent, I guess, performers we've seen for a long time. It's almost the same game every week, and yeah, it'd be great to see him just take that one little step further and absolutely pull a team apart. I mean, save it for this week. Don't worry about this week. Just do it against Melbourne. Have an absolute ripper against Melbourne. But yeah, by far and away the best player on the ground for the night for us was Sinclair. Gave him 4 votes. It's pretty much he was 2 times better than anyone on the field, and that's how why I basically gave him the 4 votes.
Yeah, pretty similar for me. I think pretty much covered all the base. I gave 1 vote to Hill, Battle, Crouch, Naz, and Jimmy Webster. I gave 2 votes to Jack Steele. I think that's probably the best we've seen of Jack Steele for quite a while. And it wasn't necessarily that humongous impact like you mentioned, H. It was more doing the little things that I think we've become accustomed to Jack Steele doing, which is the defensive pressure, the locking the ball in, the clearance work, the tackles. I mean, 12 tackles is a huge number regardless, but that was getting closer to the Jack Steele that we know and love. And like you both said, Jack Sinclair was far and away our best player, and 3 votes for him.
Yeah, tracking towards the best and fairest again, and probably ours as well. So, which is the Jack Steele Award. Although maybe if Sinclair ends up winning 5, it ends up changing. But Jack Steele was so far and away ahead in those previously. It's like the Jason Blake Award, whether that ended up becoming a I don't know if somebody else like a Liam Stocker ends up owning it or something. We might have to revisit it somewhere along the way. But yeah, that's a reflection on that game against Brisbane. Obviously, some sad news filtered through during the week as well. Matt Rendell, obviously, his role in football was primarily as a great player with Fitzroy back in the day, but spent a lot of time at St Kilda during a fun time for St Kilda, you know, when a lot of us were sort of teenagers and really enjoying that side that was kicking 30 goals a week under Grant Thomas. And, you know, I remember him, it's when I knew we'd won the qualifying final against Adelaide, was because that was back when Channel 10 had the 5-minute warning, so you didn't know exactly how long there was to go. And I think we were chipping the ball around on the wing and we were 8 points up, and they panned to the coach's box and Matt Rendell stood up behind Grant Thomas and had a smile on his face and had picked up his folder. And I'm like, well, the siren's going to go, clearly. And I remember a lot of people around us were like, they're packing up in the box, we're home. And for whatever reason, I remember that image. But, yeah, obviously very sad to hear of his passing during the week. And, he's a St Kilda person, albeit mainly a Fitzroy Brisbane person, but certainly one of ours, Nick.
I think it's kind of understated the impact that he had on our footy club. I mean, we all talk about Grant Thomas and Ross Lyon and I guess that transition period and you know what GT did with our list and our club over that period. But I think what Matt Rendell brought to us was that real focus on footy, strategy, skill, training, professionalism, all that sort of stuff. GT was the culture and the leadership and the motivation and all that sort of stuff, and bit of foot, like obviously a real footy head himself. But Matt Rendell came from that elite, was an AFL captain, VFL captain, best and fairest, all these sorts of things, and really brought that professionalism to the coaching group and the strategic mind and vision to, what moves had to be made. Obviously, that connection between footy department and coaching as well, with an eye towards what he did later in his career, and really was and had a big impact on our footy club over that period.
It's one of those, I guess, roles that you don't see a lot, and you don't hear a lot of praise from, and you don't hear a lot of. Well, it's not the Hollywood role sort of thing. It's a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of hard work, a lot of getting the best out of what we've got. But on the game day, where the things that he might do work, it's not the praise that goes to him. It's the players who did it. So there's a lot of work there that he probably never got a lot of credit for, except for behind the scenes. So a lot of people wouldn't realise the sort of job that is. And yeah, these assistants that work week in, week out, we see a lot more of it now with the coverage that the club gives to Corey Enright and Lenny and Halves, and it's a bit more obviously because we've had the guys come home, but they're getting a lot more recognition now than what they ever have. And he was in a time where he probably got a lot out of the players that we had, and we saw that with the results on the field, but just never got that praise that it probably deserved. And we and all other fans thank him for that time that we had back then, and it was a great time to watch, and cut down obviously by a few injuries that could have led us all the way, but we just stumbled at the final couple of, well, not the final hurdle, but just before a couple of times, and the hard work was almost rewarded.
It was an incredibly fun team to watch, wasn't
absolutely.
it? Fun team to watch, and he was a huge part of that.
Yeah, and obviously Grant Thomas has been a guest on our show a couple of times, and reaching out to him as well. Obviously, he's was very, very close to Bundy, and it's a really unfortunate circumstance. Obviously, to see. I mean, his son's been a bit of a spokesperson, and he's playing in the VFL with Frankston at the moment, so continuing on as a ruckman in that comp. So. Hopefully, the family can work their way through it. But one player who was touched certainly by Matt Rendell's influence and played some good football for us and was there for a couple of pretty significant moments across the little stint that he spent with the club, is our next guest and penned some nice words today. I speak of Allan Murray.
Around and in and out of trouble. Tallis. Oh, Murray! What a start for his career for the Saints. Allan Murray strikes in for the opening goal. Talk about expect the unexpected.
Well, our next special guest on Unplugged was part of a fascinating chapter, a fascinating story in St Kilda's history. We try to touch on the many and varied paths through to the AFL and through to St Kilda. And Allan Murray started with Port Adelaide at pick 35, played a game with them, came across to the Saints, but obviously the story from there was promoted off the rookie list after Matthew Capuano was delisted, kicked a goal in his first 20 seconds as a Saint, and would kick 4 on debut and play a major role in a great victory over Hawthorn, and then a very good win over the Brisbane Lions a week later as well. And he's been on our list for a little while, and unfortunately it's been fast-tracked a little bit with the tragic passing of Matt Rendell, and Allan Murray did pen some very nice words over the last 24 hours or so. And Allan, thanks very much for jumping on and joining us today.
Yeah, hi guys, and certainly condolences to the Rendell family, and thanks for the opportunity to share my journey and also the connection I had with the great man, which we'll touch on a little bit later.
I guess starting there, obviously you did put that post together. He was a major part of Grant Thomas's coaching staff during your time at the Saints, and everybody who has spoken, be it his ex-Fitzroy teammates or those that were involved in St Kilda or even, list management at Adelaide or wherever it may be, have spoken incredibly highly of him. Can you take us through your relationship with Matt Rendell?
Yeah, for sure. And before we move into it, boys, I'd certainly like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we gathered on. To my people, the Dudawara people, my traditional lands, which I'm based up in Wodonga at the moment, and then also to the homelands of Moorabbin, of the great club, St Kilda Footy Club, where it takes place at the land of the Bunurong people. So I'd like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and also those emerging as well that are coming through the ranks and and showing those leadership qualities to pursue some greater aspirations into advancing, I guess, Aboriginal affairs as we move into this great thing that's leading towards the end of the year, the referendum, where we have a choice: do we go down the path of the referendum and saying yes, and just like the 67 referendum, and having the mob in the Constitution. So, and that's always been an integral part of me and my identity. And that was something that I was extremely proud about, that I brought to St Kilda Footy Club after my short stint at Port Adelaide. And as a post I put out today, sharing a bit of an insight and a story to my family and all of my friends and to the wider audience as well, around the great man Bundy was, as he was known, in the football ranks. The 2 years that I had at Port was cut short, unfortunately, after 2 years after being there with 8 of the brother boys as well, where we certainly had some great times on and off the field. But then 2 years later, it was one of those things, and as an individual and as a family, and for those families and other players who have been through that experience where they do get cut from the list, or they get that phone call or called into the coach's office, and you're sitting around, you're sitting in front of the coach, and you're sitting in front of the operations manager and the CEO and the recruitment guys or whoever it might be, and then they say to you, your services are no longer required. And at the ripe age of 20, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I didn't know where I was going. And that was at the time at Port Adelaide. And then after that, I was literally crying and didn't know what to do, and got told to pack the locker up and get my stuff and move on. So then I had to pack up my Mitsubishi Lancer and chuck all my stuff in the car, because I sort of had nothing in Adelaide, other than older brother was there at the time, and he had a partner as well. And then a month or two sort of passed, and I'm sort of looking at life and looking at myself in the mirror, not knowing what my next steps are or where I'm going in life. And speaking to mum and dad, they're like, "Son, you just need to come home so we can look after you." So yeah, packed the Lancer up and cut across from Adelaide to Albury, which is about a 9 to 10 hour drive. And then sitting at home at mum and dad's in a suburb outside of Albury called Thaguna, where I grew up, and sitting there for a couple of months, and being a little bit miserable, and I guess somewhat looking back at it now, probably a little bit depressed. You sacrifice so much at a young age to try and get drafted, get into a system, get on a list, and then you're in it, and then you live it, and then you train your ass off to try and perform, for that to fall short 2 years later, and then end up back on mum and dad's couch. It hit pretty hard, and then the funds or the savings start drying up, and then you start looking at work, and you're putting in your CV, and all you pretty much got is your Year 12 certificate and 2 years of experience at a footy club. That doesn't carry much weight these days when you're looking for work. So the savings account dried up. So I had to suck it up and had to roll into Centrelink and fill out the dole form and say that I was to show that I was worthy. And at that time when I was rocking up to Centrelink, you're somewhat in shame and you're looking down at your boots and you're going from the ultimate pinnacle of being drafted and being in a small country town where you do get looked upon as a role model and as a leader, and then a couple of years later you're back to the grassroots. And the great thing about that was no one treated me different. But then filling the form out, and then the phone started to ring. I'm not sure what it was back then. I think it was the old Nokia with the snake game that you play. And then and I'm looking at the phone. I'm thinking, who's this? Well, what's this number? And then answered the phone, and because I did hear Matt Rendell ended up at St Kilda. And that was him on the other end of the phone, and he simply asked, "What are you up to, Al?" Mate, to be honest, I'm lining up at Centrelink to put my dole form in, so I can start earning some money, so I can sort of somewhat pay rent with mum and dad, or pay some money towards them to put food on the table for us. And well, he goes, "Mate, I love the way you play your footy." The second year I had at Port Adelaide was cut short due to some injuries, so I had 2 operations on my knees, so I didn't play much that second year, but the first year played some pretty consistent footy. So then on the back of that, he gave us the call and said, "Mate, I want you to come. First of all, I want you to grab that piece of paper that you filled out that you're going to hand in to Centrelink, scrunch it up and put it in the bin, because I want you to come down and try out for St Kilda." And I was like, "Mate, that's the best news I've heard for a long time." So quickly scrunched it up, put it in the bin, ran out of Centrelink, jumped in the Lancer, drove, probably sped back then, to mum and dad, share the news with them. And then we're all jumping for joy, and having this, and how I look at it now is it was a second crack at life and a second opportunity at football. And then whilst I was driving down the Hume Highway down to Moorabbin, and sitting in, I think it was about 3.5, 4 hours drive, and again having all of my belongings in the car, and going to a host family or a dude who we live with in Cheltenham, and then sort of thinking to myself, this is my second chance to actually do something. So then I don't want to go back to where I was, only the couple of days before, where I don't want to be lining up at Centrelink and having that hard, heavy heart of being in that place. So I thought, well, now that this is my opportunity, I'm certainly going to try and make the most of it. If it comes to games being played at the footy club, or if it's doing something or using the football club as a platform to do some great things. And as you said, you played some good games with the footy club. But then I met a great person by the name of Peter King, who got involved at Saints as well, who brought in sort of the mental side and the psychology side of football and what that looks like. Because all the ups and downs of footy and the continual training that you need to do. It's a high pressure environment. It's a cutthroat industry, and being able to to best deal with that hardship of training your backside off and doing those extra sessions, but then not playing the senior game. You're in the reserves. You're doing your extra sessions. You're still on the minimum wage, and then trying to just make the most of it. So from that point on, I started putting things in place with the leadership of Bundy, who was a great supporter of the culture as in the Aboriginal culture, but culture within St Kilda Footy Club as well. And I wanted to bring that to like my heritage and the knowledge that I've been taught from my mum and dad and my family as well from Albury Wodonga, and to bring that into the elite football environment to showcase to the footy club of what that looks like. To whereas now the clubs, a lot of the clubs, and I'm pretty sure all of them have their reconciliation action plans, and a lot of the government agencies and corporate companies and businesses of the like do have their reconciliation action plans to somewhat create a level playing field for the Aboriginal community to participate in, so they feel culturally safe. And in the early days, within St Kilda, I sort of didn't feel that. Even though we've had the greats of Nicky Winmar and your Gilbert McAdams and those guys who are pioneers of the game. But in terms of a young Aboriginal kid coming into a foreign environment and still not sort of being felt like he was culturally safe in his home, which is St Kilda Footy Club, I felt that I needed to start creating change with people's mindset around the mob. So with that, created a not-for-profit charity with Xavier Clark, and where we went into schools and community groups, and we had the support from the board down to the coaches wide to the playing group, where we'd go into schools and community groups and teach adolescent kids and young adults around life skills and how important it is when you're in those adolescent years as you start engaging in those high-risk behaviours. What are the ripple effects of the decisions that you make? And I gave some great examples of some of my stuff that I did when I was a teenager and found myself in trouble, and the ripple effect from that, and then when you start making the right choice and then surrounding yourself with the right people, that ripple effect isn't so great. So with those programs, we got government funding, state and federal, where we'd have players, the playing group at the time, come in and share their stories as well. Like before the headquarters are there now, when the old stand was there with the old Trevor Barker room and the old dungeon underneath, we'd run a program in there with some local kids that are around the corner at Moorabbin School, where we got them in, and this was during our day off. So generally the Thursday was our day off, where we'd get up at pretty much 6:30 in the morning on our day off and go, because we did what we called a breakfast club, because we wanted to send the kids to school, with the right nutrition in their belly, so then they can go to school and not feeling hungry. Because when you are hungry, when you're at school, all you're thinking about is food. You're not thinking about the lessons that are getting taught or the stories that are getting told by the teachers. So we did a breakfast club, and we're at the footy club from 6:30 to 8 o'clock on our day off. And it was a commitment that we put in as an individual and as a club and as a playing group to showcase to the young kids that once you start engaging in these programs and identifying certain things at a young age, hopefully as they go through their adolescent years into their adult life, they can make better decisions. And that's something they were extremely proud of. And Bundy had come down and participated in a few of those sessions as well and shared his story. We just had a great time during that period. I was at the footy club.
We've heard a lot about Bundy. I mean, we know, I guess, a little bit what he was like as a player. Is a big, intimidating ruckman, played hard, was fierce competitor. We've seen him in the media over the last kind of decade or so on the radio and that sort of stuff. But what was he like behind closed doors? I mean, obviously he gave you that second chance that you've just spoken about, not just from a footy career, but post-footy and into a bunch of things that you've done since. But what was Matt Rendell like behind closed doors?
Yeah, behind closed doors, and as you're saying, he was ruthless. He would call a spade a spade. But the great thing in the relationship I had with Bundy was when it was behind closed doors, he was a gentle giant. And he was like a big brother. And I had I had an uncle similar stature in height and size and a similar tone of voice as well. And I really looked at him and sort of put him, Bundy, and my uncle sort of in parallel because my uncle was good at footy as well. And just hearing, those the stories or the skills that he'd teach you on certain places to be with on the footy field, the tactical side of things, the zone side of things, and the structure of side of things, and also having the belief in yourself, all that stuff happened behind closed doors, which I hold dear to my heart, and that's why the post that I put out today is I wouldn't be pretty much where I am today with the successes that I've had with work and family and now a new relationship, and I wouldn't be where I am without that second chance of Bundy calling me whilst I was in that lineup at Centrelink. So ruthless on the field, out on the track, blowing the whistle, look you in the eyes, rip the shreds off you. But the great thing about it, behind the closed doors, he'll give you that gentle, warm, verbal hug, not a physical one, but it'd make you feel, valuable, and that's important as well. As much as you, as a coach, and I'm coaching my young boys team now, and as much as you get frustrated at times and you want to yell and scream and somewhat call it out, some of the behaviours, it's important to, whilst the environment or the people aren't around, to go circle back around and to check in and to ensure that that it's okay, that we're all we're trying to do as coaches, and I'm sure Bundy was of that view as well, is to make you a better person, not just on the footy field, but also off the footy field as well. And that was something that he certainly did for me.
So from that, is there one thing that you just recall that might be a little thing that he gave you, a tip on life, a tip on football, a tip on, I don't know, the best burger joint that just sticks in your mind, that go, that's something that you hold and you still hold today that he gave to you, sort of thing?
Yeah, well, I certainly can't go past that phone call because I could only imagine if I didn't answer that call, because I wouldn't have got a second one. I wouldn't have got a second call, because that's the type of person he was. He'd give you sort of one opportunity. If you didn't take it, he'd move on pretty quick. So I was lucky that I did answer that call. And I guess from that point on, all these things started falling into place. And then we sort of just had this special connection, or this bond, where I was more than happy for him to call it out, or my behaviours, or if it's certain plays or certain things were out on the footy field, if I wasn't, being in the right structure within the team, or if I was being lazy at a certain period of time, I was happy for him to call me out, and to be ruthless with it as well, because I knew that there was no malice behind what he was trying to do, but all he wanted to do is he was just trying to make me a better player, and he was just a very special person.
So obviously that journey itself was a special one, but then we obviously fast-tracked through that 2003 season, and it all happens very quickly. St Kilda loses to Collingwood on a Saturday night, a bad loss. Matthew Capuano gets the tap on the shoulder, and very unusual to have a player cut effectively mid-year. You get promoted off the rookie list. You play that very game. You kick a goal in the first 30 seconds at the MCG, obviously the home of footy. Can you recall it all, I guess, the few days that led up to you playing, and then was there a moment when you went back to your position after kicking the first goal at the MCG where you thought, shit, what the hell's going on here? How did this all happen?
Yeah. Oh, I can remember it like clear as day. And getting called into the office, not like the 2 years prior, getting called into the office by the coaches and the operations and the recruiting guys saying, Allan, your services are no longer required. This was a good news story. So I was more than happy to walk up to the coach's room and have them all sit down and say, Al, you've been playing some good footy. Unfortunately, Matty Capuano's left the footy club, and there's a spot on the list, and we would like to give you an opportunity. So from that moment on, the phone start ringing, mum and dad and all the family, and then the next thing after that is how many tickets can we get? And then after that, they're organising all the buses that come down from Albury-Wodonga. And then it's a surreal couple of days, and then you get to game day, and like having your training for that period of time with your Robert Harvey and Nathan Burks and Lenny Hayes and Nick Rewaltz and Fraser Gehrig and all Aaron Hamill and all of these stars and legends of the footy club. But to get that opportunity to run out in the same jumper with them, that was very special. Dad's a St Kilda supporter. So for him, having his son play and represent the footy club, meant a lot, not only for him, but to our whole family. And then have an extended family and friends in the stands as well. I think the end that I kicked the goal in, I think they were doing the redevelopment of the stand. I'm not sure the name of the stand at the moment. So the only thing that was there was that little stop clock or whatever it might be. And yeah, you're right, it had 20 or 30 seconds on it. After smothering the kick from Tallis, I think it was, from Hawthorn. And then, just putting the arms in the air, and then you got Nick Rewalt run over, and then Xavier, and then Harves comes over, and you were all jumping around with happiness and excitement. And then, to play that game and to slot 4 and kick the last one of the day as well. So you kicked the first, then the last, just before the final siren. It's it's a pretty cool feeling.
You mentioned before walking into the footy club and talking about the culture of St Kilda when you got there, but I guess walking into that locker room, and you've got Grant Thomas is the coach, and obviously he'd put in a fair bit of work in terms of turning around the culture, from a losing mentality to a winning mentality, and the family and all that sort of stuff that people still talk about 25 years later nearly. What are your memories of Tomo and I guess that period for the footy club?
Yeah, Tomo was he like Bundy, like he was hard as nails, ruthless, more than happy to call a spade, rip the shreds off you, but then be humble enough to give you that loving and warm cuddle at the other end. And just being the family man that he is, and the many barbecues we'd have, and we'd go around to his place, and he was a huge fan of the steaks that are about 30 centimetres thick. We'd all go around to his place and just hang out, and having that family environment, which in turn generated that culture from a family setting, and then for what I wanted to input to the footy club with the support of Peter King, who I mentioned, Xavier, Bundy with his support, and a few other key people as well. Brian Phelan when he was at the footy club, and then he moved to Melbourne Storm, who was a player welfare manager at the time. To bring in that sense of culture, not only from a family setting, but from an identity setting as well, because the work that I do now in today's environment, working with engineers in the built environment to bring in culture, because when you talk about engineering, they only think about today's engineering. when I talk about engineering from the many, many thousands of years ago, of, our ancestors engineering and being, engineers in their own right, of how they manage water and how they manage cultural burn-offs and how they had the ingenuity of creating a boomerang or a spear or these artifacts and tools to feed the mob. So bringing in all of those cultural values and lessons that have been passed down from generation to generation to generation, and the sense of pride and culture, I wanted to bring that to the club. And I was lucky enough that the club gave me that platform to start working on those particular programs, to work with the young kids as well, to build that resilience and the strength and the pride within the grassroots level. Made all of us a lot stauncher and stronger and prouder as well, because we're giving something back to the community. And then on the back of that comes that other side of the culture coin as well. So it was an absolutely amazing time. And then sort of the 4 years that I had, and then I think it was 8 or 9 years after, went back to the footy club and helped in the Aboriginal participation space again, to help the club out to advance their Aboriginal affairs as an organisation. Because I think when I went back, there was only one or two of the brother boys playing. I think it was only Gresh and Longy. But then working with Matty Finnis and Lisa Liang, and then some other key people in leadership roles at the club to work on the reconciliation action plan. So we can we'll try to create that level playing field. So when we do recruit in your new recruits, they come into an environment to feel culturally safe, so then they can perform and feel like it's home for them. Whereas now, you've got all your cultural design jumpers at the footy club. You've got Nicky Winmar's jumpers and all the other cultural design jumpers that have taken place over the last few years. You've got the word woman Jika in the headquarters there at the foyer. You've got both the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flag. The staff numbers are starting to increase. So all of these things, the momentum side of things, is gradually building. So that makes a young recruit or a new recruit coming into the footy club feel culturally safe. So then, what we want them to do is, first of all, be themselves, not feel shame, and play the best football they can play for the footy club. So, help the club out in that aspect as well. To launch our reconciliation action plan a couple of years ago, which is a milestone event for the club as well. And to bring Nikki down to the club in Gilbert for the Welcome to Country and the smoking ceremony, and having the boys participate in that. All of these things do build over time. And now, you look at Gresh and a few of the other boys, they feel a lot prouder and stauncher for all of those little, I guess what you call them, foundations that we put in place over the years.
Now, going back to 2003 again, so you come into the second half of the season, play 7 games, kick 9 goals, averaging about 10 touches a game. The club was on a real sort of rise at that end of that season, and the team was starting to look really gelled, and things were really starting to work well. Did you find you were, or feel like you were going to be part of the team going into the next season, like really cementing a spot and thinking it was there? Or what made, I guess, playing only 2 games the next season, sort of what's happened there? Was everything in, like, we know he had a few injuries and that, but how did it roll into the next season?
Yeah, so the next season, and I'm always competing against around the that small forward lead up role. Competing against Mildy or Aaron Hamills or Guerrero, who was there at the time, then I had full confidence leading into that second year to hopefully to be be one of the 22 that are named every week. But then, a few injuries come into play. I think I broke my arm about 4 times that year, so I think I missed the majority of that year. Having operation after operation, and you go back to the reserves and you try and play your ass out to try and get back into the team, and then you might play one, and then the team loses, and because they lose, you're the first one out. But then also going back to all of the life skills programs that we were doing at the footy club, and having that mental resilience to just keep going, because there's this thing in the back of your head that will just say you either give up or you keep going. And with all of that training in terms of the mental strength, and even though having all of the injuries and being in and out of the team, it's one of those things where you just keep going. And I was getting a lot of fulfillment and joy whilst I was injured to do those community programs, because that was my role within the footy club at that time, even though I couldn't pull the jumper on either for the senior team or the reserves. So I sort of took that as the opportunity to advance the club's community programs in that space as well. Even though, ideally I'd love to be out there pulling the number 20 on every week in and week out, but unfortunately it just didn't pan out that way.
Well, talk of the little milestones in your career. You did play in a final in 2004. In terms of the steps across your career, as you say, you had your debut at Port Adelaide, then you had your debut at St Kilda, and then obviously you've kicked 4 in that game, and there's different steps along the way. How significant? Well, I know that the final didn't go too well with a bad loss at the Gabba at Brisbane, but to run out there in a final at AFL level, just what that means or meant given the injuries that year?
Yeah, I was pretty surprised to get the call up myself, and I think they just wanted to mix things up again. And I have no doubt that Matt Rendell was sort of the mastermind behind that, to try and mix things up with the forward structure that we had at the time. So I think we're a little bit predictable. So to throw in, someone who leads different, who plays different, sort of brings in an element of some change. And I think I was pretty lucky not to get suspended that game too, as I come off the line and hit Power in the back of the head with my elbow. So I was lucky not to get suspended. I think I had 15 or 16 touches that game. But, we lost. And, but certainly, playing in that finals environment at the Gabba, like the first game or like any game, you're sort of in awe in the moment, and then you just get in the moment, and then you sort of shut everything else out. And all you want to do is just try and, play at your best to perform for the team.
Your final year at the footy club in a playing capacity, and 2006 was Tomo's final year as a coach as well, but you played all of your 4 games in the first half of the season. We've spoken a little bit about the injuries that you suffered, I guess, in those later years of your career. But what was the end like for you? You mentioned kind of going into the coach's office at Port Adelaide and having that conversation with the department. What was that like at the end of your time at St Kilda?
Yeah, so my end at St Kilda was certainly a lot more humble, I suppose, than what it was at Port. Because towards the end, I had 6 years in the system, busting my ass out to try and be a regular senior player. And then towards the end of my last year at the club, I sort of somewhat fell out of love with the game because of injuries, and then because of you're playing some solid football in the reserves, and you're not getting that call up. And when you do get the call up, you're only in for 1 or 2 weeks, and then the team loses, and you're the first one out. So you can only put up with that sort of, I guess, the kicks in the guts or whatever you want to call it for so long. And, you're doing your extra sessions and you're trying to do everything that you can to be the best you can and play for the club. And then towards the end, as I was saying earlier, I was getting my fulfillment at the footy club by running the programs. And I was enjoying, which I shouldn't have been, playing at Springvale Scorpions, I think it was back then, in the reserves, because you could sort of play the game with freedom. Whereas you get into the elite system, it's you got to run here, you got to be there, you got to be in certain places, and if you're not there, you get your match review coming up on the Monday or the Tuesday, and you get shown on the big bloody screen of where you should be, and that's in front of 40 other blokes and all the coaching staff, and so towards the end of all of that, I sort of just had enough of it. So then what I did was I started to put my energy towards moving or transitioning myself out of the game. So then I wouldn't end up at Centrelink. So then I moved myself or transitioned myself into the charity that we had set up, and which made the transition out of the game or out of St Kilda Footy Club a lot easier. So it left on good terms, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to go back to the club. To help them out in the Aboriginal affairs space as well, to assist them and help them because they helped me, those years ago to give me that second opportunity. And I still pop down to the club every now and again. Still chat to a few of the boys and only Corinne or Karen down there, Eamon, who's the Aboriginal affairs liaison worker down there. And then also having touch points before Simon got in the seat with Matty Finnis and regular check-ins with him around the Aboriginal affairs aspect of the footy club. And then also being somewhat playing the role of what Bundy would do and be open and honest with Finnis as well around the participation side of things of the footy club. Why are the brother boys feeling it the way that they're feeling? Why aren't the club recruiting or employing more Aboriginal people within the environment when you've got 60-odd staff or people within a workplace and you only got one or two? That's not good enough. And having those honest conversations with Matty Finnis at the time, which is a relationship I respected as well. So that was one of the reasons why I went back to the footy club to really help them out, and to where it is now. With all the boys that are there now, playing some good footy. Hopefully, we can play some more consistent footy and keep all the brother boys out on the pitch at the same time. So we can bloody get that second flag that we're all craving.
So you've got a great connection to the club, obviously, and this year we've been asking everyone who's come on, being the 150th anniversary of the club, to you, what is the St Kilda Football Club? What does it mean to you? What's a moment that could describe it for you, basically in your words, your best description of the St Kilda Football Club?
I guess for me it's... I guess if you put it in a body terms, I'm right-footed. I'd say they've been my right leg, which is my strongest leg, and for that footy club to give me that opportunity and to work with me through that journey, and then to go back, and the many great people I've met along the way as well. Not just the playing staff, the many trainers and support volunteers at the club who I still speak to today, the sponsors, and having great relationships with them and still having great relationships with them, and just holding that close to my heart and really valuing the time that I had, and hopefully, the club have learnt a couple of things from my time being there, and that's what and that's what it's all about. That if I can, the club's given me something, and hopefully I've given something back. So in terms of the body stature, they've been my right leg ever since transitioning out of the game. That's for sure.
I think it goes to show it doesn't matter whether it's AFL or local level, that football clubs are life-changing for anyone who's ever been involved at club level, and what it does for people's lives and the opportunities it does give them. But, Allan, thank you very much for the ongoing contribution. Some contributions are both significant on the field and off the field, and yours is definitely one of those. So we appreciate you sharing the stories, but also all of the time that you've given, not just us, but the club.
Thanks, boys.
Allan Murray there, and obviously hearing from him there, great that he's involved with the club and certainly helping a lot of the younger players through. Got a very good head on his shoulders and speaks well and understands that balance between football and life and what one can teach you about the other and vice versa. So good to get his insights on that. We turn our attention towards West Coast. Now, obviously it's not our position to be flippant because any game is capable of being won or lost. West Coast have demonstrated that. They beat Collingwood last year at Marvel, which is the biggest upset in the history of the game on reflection. But the reality of the situation is also that they're playing as bad as any side that I've seen whilst watching AFL. We've mentioned Fitzroy a little bit, that they're playing as bad, if not worse, than Fitzroy when they were on their deathbed in 95, 96 and struggling at the level that the expansion clubs were when they joined the comp in Gold Coast and GWS. And I made the point, look, we, as St Kilda supporters, we're generally nervous, anxious people because we tend to think that bad things are just around the corner, or if things are going okay, it won't last, or where's your next crisis, where's your next injury, where's your next season-defining loss. It's not our fault. We've been accustomed to that so often that you kind of, as a defence mechanism, prepare yourself for it so it doesn't hurt as much if it does come. But the reality, Nick, and I mentioned this in the group, is we have to almost as supporters try to find a way to shake ourselves free of that. And certainly as a club, we have to shake ourselves free of that, because the scenario I put forward was, if you reverse the roles, if we were going as badly as they are and they were fighting for a spot in the 8 like we are, they would not be having these conversations. They wouldn't even talk about us. They just rock up and beat us by 15 goals and move on. And that's exactly what we have to do.
For sure. And you're right. I mean, the footy club is the one that has to move forward from this.
Correct.
The footy club has to get to the point where they prove to the community, to the fans, to the members, to the AFL world, that they are capable of moving past this. And so far, we talk about the fans' mentality, and that's why the hashtag, that's why That's So St Kilda exists, right? Is because the St Kilda fans, the St Kilda community has been burnt so many times before by all of this, whether it's rule changes, whether it's last-minute injuries or umpiring mistakes or whatever it is, poor losses when you should win. This membership base, this supporter base has been burnt so many times. The scars are so deep, and I don't think it's on the fans to get past this.
No.
That's So St Kilda. It's on the footy club. It's fairly and squarely on the shoulders of those in the footy club right now to get past this, to walk into a game on Sunday afternoon where this team is in crisis. West Coast are in crisis, and we shouldn't be having this conversation. Like you said, we shouldn't be having this conversation like, can we even beat this team? Like, are we going to beat this team? Every team in the AFL should beat this team and shouldn't even think twice about it the way that the Eagles are going right now. This is the worst team that we've seen in the last 30, 40 years, if not ever in the history of the game. This is the worst team. We shouldn't be having this conversation about whether we should win this game, whether we should be flippant or prepare to win this game. We shouldn't be having this discussion, but we are so scarred from other, memories and other events and circumstances, we only have to go back a couple of weeks to Hawthorn, who was sitting second last on the ladder. They had 2 wins for the season, and we're sitting fourth, whatever it was, I think at the time, and they came out and rolled us. And that's another example of what this footy club does to us as a fan base. and that's exactly why these conversations happen. That's exactly why those hashtags exist. It's exactly why That's So St Kilda is a segment on this podcast. And it's on the footy club, it's on Ross, and it's on the playing group, and it's on the administration to get us past that, to prove to us over and over that we are better than that this shouldn't exist and it doesn't exist. But right now it does.
And in a professional comp, H, I think just on that too, I think in a professional comp with professional leaders, it probably won't. You're probably not as vulnerable to it. Like I don't envisage a scenario where we could lose the game as much as that might be playing with fire. But the perception is certainly real from inside and outside. And I remember reading this morning the match tips and things like that. And this is what people write in articles. It was they tipped St Kilda to win by 74 points, but the line at the bottom of it was, but if anyone was going to lose a game to West Coast, it would be them. And I'm thinking, fuck you. But in a way, you're right. Like, I understand why you're saying that because our fans are saying it, but fuck you anyway. Like, I don't want that sort of stuff being written, you know what I mean? And we've got to find a way to get that out of their vernacular and out of our vernacular.
Yeah, well, I was saying to Nick earlier, I've done my tip this week in the way of I'm probably halfway between what we should do and halfway between what we probably will come out and do. And so I picked us by 99 and going, one, because St Kilda can't win by 100 points. That just doesn't happen. But we should win by 20 goals. And then you go, okay, well, it's in Perth, so you take a little bit off that, and then you go, well, we're probably going to have King's probably going to kick 1-7, so you go, okay, a little bit more there, and they're somehow going to scrap 6 goals in the last 6 minutes, and you just go, all these things that could come together, and then we scrap a 40-point win. And you think, well, yeah, it's the kind of thing you look and go, it's a 40-point win that you're going to be kicking the cat about. It's just not a result that you go, it's not that level of win's not even acceptable. It's a game that the biggest upside for us is to somehow go out there and absolutely annihilate them. There's no other upside for the whole match.
Yeah, we have a habit of beating shit teams
game,
and not feeling great about it.
Yeah.
We just need to find a way to have the system flow. Like, don't kick 12 goals, 19 and win by 38 points.
Yeah.
The margin doesn't so much matter. It's just take your chances and look convincing.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see.
Well, like, this is a team,
players who haven't done something for a while.
This is a team that lost by 100. They lost by 170 last week. They've had 4 losses by over 100. They've had 12 losses by 40 or more. 12 losses by 40 or more. So it really is a no-win game for us, because if we come out and win by 50, well, of course you should win by 50. They don't lose by under 50. So you have to win by that's par for the course. But obviously if we win by 12, then that's as bad as a loss. And if we lose, then that's crisis. So the only way that we can win is if we demolish them, like you said, H. It really is. It's a no-win situation for us, and because we don't demolish teams. Like, let's just put that out there. We just don't. We don't demolish teams.
Yeah, I mean, what was our big? I mean, we beat the goal early in the year. We beat the Gold Coast by 53, and the Dogs by 51. Yeah. Both of those sides obviously significantly better than this one. Difficult to put reads on margins, but my view is just be convincing. I think they put the line up as 51, as you say. That's about part of the course. Yeah,
that's come in though. I think it's at 49 or something. It came in from 51 to 49. So
I'm stunned they didn't make a change this week. To be honest, West Coast, but I'm glad they didn't.
No one to choose from.
Can they?
No, as in not a change in personnel, but a change in the top, so to speak.
Well, yeah.
They had been along that line all year, though, that they were going to stick with him no matter what because of the situation. And that'd been written in weeks ago now that they know they're in trouble. They know that there's nothing Simpson can do about it. It's just what he's been dealt, the cards he's been dealt. So I was sort of confident it wasn't going to happen. Guys. But yeah, you sort of go, you're sitting there last week going, he's going to get sacked, and we've got to go next week. And that's the other thing that was run through everyone's head. But you sort of all had the confidence going, no, they've said that he is there through the season no matter what because of our situation. So it gave it a little bit more confidence going, yeah, okay, that's same team, so it's going to appear next week against us. So yeah, that's a.
Well, I mean, they get Shannon Hearn and Jamie Cripps back. So Hearn will take 18 intercept marks and probably kick 3 goals from outside 50, and Cripps will kick 8
from the goal square.
What he does.
But Cripps sums up their scenario though, in that he's missed probably 10 weeks, and he's come straight in. He's not even playing waffle.
That's right.
So that it shows
that's right. But you look at the names that are on their injury list, like Cole. McGovern, Natanui, Petreski-Seaton, Rotham, Waterman, Yo, Cully, Edwards, Jones, they're in crisis. They're in crisis.
They are, and obviously it's the 4th biggest loss ever that they had last week. So no one, So we're almost trying to convince ourselves not to be afraid, when the reality is we just shouldn't be afraid. It's that simple.
That's right.
But it's the nature of who we are, and it's not our fault. As we said, it's not our fault. It's perfectly natural for us to feel the way that we do, and it's up to the club to start righting those wrongs. I mean, in my head, I was thinking on Sunday, if we lose the game, it's as bad as that Hawthorn loss in 99, and we won't recover for 2 years. But then I'm like, well, how about you just don't lose, and you just watch the game and win and move on? But obviously they've brought in, as you say, Hearn, and who did play a few weeks ago, and Cripps, Elliot Yeo, who's arguably their best player. I know he's had a bad year on injuries. He goes out. Petreski-Seaton, who I forgot was still playing AFL, has gone out of the out of their side as well. For us, it's interesting. So Ross comes back as expected. They didn't drop Sharman, who they've done in the past. Like as a sub, you usually have to leave the sub out, but they've kept him in. Obviously, with extended squads, they take Campbell over there, and I think it's Paris as well, which is interesting. But there
was, just speaking on Paris, I don't know if anyone else saw the post from Nova on social earlier in the week that said they got some big family news and they were out for a celebratory dinner and champagne, and obviously seeing Jack in the squad this week. I know he's been an emergency a couple of times.
Maybe he'll be
I don't know
the
if
sub.
we can read much in it, but possibly.
Yeah, that would suggest that there's a very strong chance of that. Yeah, Nova might have let the cat out of the bag.
Bit of run in Perth, never heard anyone. So that's
he's been okay.
And if there's any game
pressure as well, it's one of the things that we've lacked.
If there's any game to bring someone in for match experience, when you're up and about, it's the sort of game you go, okay, this is the best situation to do it. You probably line up against someone. Line up against someone that probably at even similar, maybe just slightly better than him sort of level, and just he's got nothing to lose. Get out there and run like you can, run like the wind, and show us what you got.
Yeah, it looks a good chance, I think, based on, I didn't know that Nova tweet, so that there's a fair chance that might be on the cards, but. Interesting, obviously, Bytel 13 tackles and about 30 touches in the VFL. Billings kicked 3 and had 27 or something. They must have been close, but obviously he wants to give them another run at Sandy, and who knows what happens the week after. Obviously, Mackenzie looked okay. Zach Jones somehow managed to get suspended, but looked okay. And obviously the kids were progressing. I mean, Mackenzie, what's the number for Mackenzie and Jones realistically? Do they have to play 3 in the VFL?
I'm not sure, Jones. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Jones
I think Jones might not, but I mean probably, to be in contention.
Yeah, I mean at least 3, probably 4 or 5. I'd imagine, especially for someone like Mackenzie who hasn't played since June last year or May last year. So, I mean, you need a solid month to be able to prove that your calf and brain for Mackenzie can handle it. I want Mackenzie in just about more than anyone else on our injury list. Mackenzie and Hayes are probably the two for us, but Yeah, look, I think they probably need a couple more weeks.
Yeah, and Jones definitely didn't help himself. That's the big thing about him. So
No.
he had the opportunity and come back and as he's done a couple of times, just made a bit of a silly decision, and it's setting back another. Well, you look at a minimum 2 weeks.
Not the smartest.
By the time he gets to round 17, 18, 19, where you sort of go, okay, if he gets a good run and he's in contention, unless there's injuries there, you're sort of not picking him because you want the team set at that point of the season.
That's
so
right.
It's almost a situation going, we probably won't see him in our colours this year.
And he's out of contract.
Working in his favour is our midfielders lacked a little bit of dynamism in recent weeks, so there's a chance that if he did spark it up, he had probably 14, I think, in that game, but they were largely in bursts where he'd have 3 in a chain and then 4 in a minute and just little bursts like that throughout the game. And Mackenzie kind of drifted in and out, might have played 50% game time, but looked okay, rusty but okay, and hopefully he tracks along. So, obviously we'll watch this space for a debutant. We've only used 28 players this year, which obviously points to our injuries, but also that we probably need to have a look at a couple that might give us some options in the run, hopefully towards the finals. But the awards, let's start off with the Shannon Knoll Award, just change it up a little bit in that space, only because I think we're missing a player maybe more than we realise. I think a lot of the talk this year has been around whether this player is either finished or in our best 22. I'm hoping the answer to the first question is no, and I think the answer to the second question is yes. But given how young our forward line is and how poor our ball movement has been forward of centre, I think we are missing a fit Tim Membry quite significantly. So my lift is actually, and I know it's harsh because he's a kid, but it is the AFL, and I think we need Caminiti, who's been a bit quiet in recent weeks. I know he's playing on Harris Andrews last week, which is tough on arguably the best defender in the game, but we need him to be able to compete, and he's had a pretty good year, but we're missing Membry. He's not going to play for at least a month. It needs to be Caminiti that's doing that hit up and competing. It just has to be. It's as simple as that. So, he gets the award for mine. H, where did you go?
Caminiti's got to have I feel like he's the one that this week needs to have a big week and get that confidence. He needs. Definitely. He's not hitting the packs like he was. He's not, I guess, giving that option that he was giving early on. He was finding the space and getting it open a lot more early in the season, but it's just kind of drifted away a little bit and just fallen off what he provided early. So this week, get out there and take the game by the scruff of the neck and have a massive game. Simple as that. Just show us that you've got the ability to hit every contest. Like a 50-50 every ball you go for, and if you don't win it, get it to a position where a crummer or kill the ball. Let's not lose the ball when it gets in your vicinity. Let's control that ball, and he probably do with a real shot of confidence this week, and it's a perfect opportunity for him to do it.
Max King.
Max
King played 88% game time on Friday night and had 7 touches, 0 tackles. And I feel like in a team like this where you are missing that kind of senior leadership in the front half, I know Butler's been better. He's been pretty good, actually. Credit where it's due. Dan Butler's been pretty good. Jack Higgins on and off, pretty good. But you need a big body. And I know, I think we've missed Cordy. I never thought I'd say that, but I think we've missed Cordy and that kind of big body leadership in inside 50. But when delivery inside 50 is not good and you're not winning a lot of the ball, then you need to make your size and your presence felt. and I don't think King does that. We know how damaging he can be on the scoreboard. We know what an incredible player he can be. But when it's not falling your way, I think you need to have a plan B, and plan B for a guy like Max King, who can get around the ground as easily as just about anyone in the competition, has to be putting pressure on and chasing and tackling and second efforts. And like you said, locking the ball in and stopping it from rebound all the time. And we haven't seen that from Max King. And, if you want to be a real elite forward in this competition, then I think you've got to add that to your game. And, if he doesn't kick 6 this week, then fine, but at least make your presence felt and throw your body around and cause some havoc.
You can keep the ball rolling, Nick. Would you change the order up a little bit with the Jason Blank?
Probably seems like a common. You mentioned him before, Parko, but Liam Stocker, I think, just keeps putting one foot in front of the other and just doing what needs to be done. I did consider giving it to Jimmy Webster for his role on Charlie, but I feel like he's gotten a fair bit of credit for that over the week. So I feel like most weeks Jimmy would be a pretty good candidate for that. But Liam Stocker just continues to take steps forward, and he's become a really valuable part of this team, and no one seems to talk about him much.
No, they don't. It's exactly right. H, where are you sitting with this one?
It's kind of hard to argue against. He's still, I feel like, our best inclusion this season. Obviously, because our other players have sort of lifted up this year are ones who we had last year as young players, but yeah, he's just keeps giving week in, week out, and had someone coming in saying he need to be dropped, and I couldn't believe it. I'm thinking, Jesus, there's half a team I'd drop before I'd be dropping him at the moment. I don't see what some people see in a player. He turns it over once, and all of a sudden he's the worst player in the field, and I don't understand at the time. So, plenty of other mistakes were made on the night, but I thought he contributed really well, and if he keeps that up, I reckon he's a fair crack at getting top 10 in our best and fairest with the consistency he's shown. So it's it'd be a great, huge first season if he's able to pull that off.
I want to give a nod to, and I think it is certainly Stocker, but honourable mention, his numbers don't read as well as they have earlier in the season. But I thought at least with Mitch Owens, he showed his versatility again in that he was struggling to have an impact as a hit-up player, so they put him into a role, and he somewhat negated Andrews a little bit in the second half, and probably showed what he would have done to Sicily in that Hawthorn game if he was there. So whilst he didn't necessarily succeed or win the role, he lowered the impact of Andrews. It was another example of him taking the responsibility to do something different and change things up. And I thought it was another, sign of his coachability and how well he's tracking along this year. So I give him an honourable mention in that space. I think that's so St Kilda. We probably sum that up with the mindset, I guess, that lingers around a match that we shouldn't be worried about but can't help but be. But some of those listener questions kind of relate to what we were talking about. Josh fired one through talking about Jimmy Webster turned 30, saying will he effectively be the one-club player? I'd imagine so. DK asking about whether you'd play McKenzie on a wing or half-back when he's fit. I still think wing with Wood on the other side. I think that combination works so well for us. Bob Khan clearly not a fan of Gresham. And Tim D asking the question, which is a very valid question, effectively as to why Saints fans aren't showing up. We've been pleading for primetime games. We got a battle for top 4 last week against Brisbane on a Friday night, 2-1 as Spud, and the crowd was a little bit disappointing. And I think that is a bit frustrating that, we want this exposure. We get the exposure. Not only do we not play well, but we don't show up either, which is disappointing.
There's a couple of things there. And obviously the big one that's going to get members to games is win games of footy. Like, win games of footy, even if you're playing average footy, like we know that that we'll sell games out when we win 4 or 5 games in a row. We'll get, maybe not sell them out, but we'll get you 35 if we're playing good footy and winning games of footy. But the other thing is that's really hard to deal with, and we're all on this side of the city, but the public transport into the city at the moment from the southeast suburbs has been awful. Like, it's horrible. And a lot of people prefer to get the train into the city, don't want to have to drive into the city, all that sort of stuff. And the ability for Bayside fans and Southeast members and supporters to get to Marvel and to get to the G in recent times has been very difficult. And so that does make it tougher. But first things first, we got to win games of footy.
Yeah, I think that it's that, once bitten, twice shy type thing that seems to plague us. But we look towards West Coast at Sunday twilight. Obviously, the whole round will play before us, and a win reverts us back to 5th. And hopefully, it's an enjoyable weekend. It's often hard waiting to be the last game of the round, but it probably beats losing on a Friday night and then enduring a weekend after that. So we'll regroup next week. A big thank you to Allan Murray. A reminder to like and subscribe and to review if you haven't done so on whatever platform that you listen on. It's always good for the numbers. And, of course, our full back catalogue, you can find all of that. Just jump on the socials. You can interact with us on game day and just have a bit of a chat and send some votes and questions and other bits and pieces, and hopefully enjoy us moving one step closer to finals football with a win over the West Coast Eagles.